video, I showed you how to put text on a path in Inkscape. Basically, that just means putting text around a shape. So the shape is the path and the text are your letters. And if you go to my YouTube channel, Apple Lover 53, if you're just stumbling across me with this video, you'll find the first video. What I'm going to show you now is a more advanced way of putting text onto paths. And what I would say is that really before you try this video, you need to have a bit of an understanding of what the icons and the functions do within Inkscape. So I would suggest that you watch at least this video, the first video, and some of the other Inkscape videos. There is a playlist on my YouTube channel and you can look at all the different types of videos I do. Some I do in scan and cut canvas, some I do directly on the scan and cut machine, and quite a lot I've done in Inkscape. You need to watch the Inkscape ones really before you try and tackle what I'm going to show you. So I'll get rid of that, but just taking it a step further, this is the kind of thing that you can do. So here what I've done, I've created a letter N and then I've welded this font to it, which is text because it's a dingbat font. I'll just close that down and we'll just start with a basic shape for now. So I'm going to come over here and choose the circle, and I'm going to hold my control key down and drag out a circle, and then I'm going to come over here just to select it. And down at the bottom you'll see here I've got a stroke set which is black, and that's what you can see on the screen, and against fill it says none. It doesn't matter whether you have a fill here or not, but I find it easier when I'm welding not to have the fill so that I can see what's going on. I'll just close that down because that's just in the way. Now I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm going to come over here and hit the font icon, and I've already chosen a font which is here called Christmas Shapes, and I got this dingbat font from dafont.com, which is www.dafont.com. I'm going to click once on the page and I'm going to just hit the letter R on my keyboard a few times, and you'll see that I'm getting little holly shapes because this is a font, and I'm going to hit the select icon to select it. So that's my text. Now I'm going to select my circle, and if you look down here at the bottom it says it's an ellipse, but to put text onto path this has to be a path. So what we have to do is while the circle's selected we go path, object to path, and then if you look down here it says it's a path. Then we drag an imaginary box around both and we go to text, put on path. Now I've got a couple of options. I can left click to deselect, I can click the circle, hold my control key down and drag it in until they all meet up, or I can undo that, left click to deselect, I can double click at the beginning of the holly, and the letter R was the letter that I used to create this dingbat font. So if I keep typing R again now, it will fill in the spaces. Then when I'm happy with that, I'm going to just hit the select icon and then click on my page to deselect. I'm going to double click at the beginning of one of these holly leaves, and then I'm going to double click the holly so they all select. And now that's brought up the kerning icons here which you've seen me use in the previous video. And the one that we want is the vertical shift, which is this one. And it's like a letter A underlined with a vertical line and a small letter A. And I'm going to keep clicking on the up arrow, and that will bring this circle of holly down over my black circle path. So I'm just going to keep clicking and it's bringing it in. And then I'm just going to click the select icon to deselect, and I'm going to try and zoom in to see if you can see a bit better. You can see they've moved down and they've overlapped. Now I'm going to select both, drag an imaginary box around everything, and I know I've got both because I've got a dotted line around my circle and a dotted line around my holly. And then I'm going to go to path and union, and that's now welded that holly to that circle. And if I come back down here and right click on the word none and choose black, you'll see that's filled it in, and that's now one complete shape. So that's how you can use text on a path, which is a shape. So dingbat fonts are classed as text, and then we've used a circle to create a path. So I'm just going to hold the control key down and minimize that and just put it out of the way. But what if we want to do something like I showed you here and weld a font to another font? So I'm going to come to our text tool, click on the page, use the letter R again, and just type about 6 or 7 hollies and click the select icon just to select them and put them there just for a minute. They're our text, remember, it tells you down here they're text. Then I'm going to deselect because I don't want those selected. I'm going to come back to the text icon. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to start typing impact because that's the font I want to choose. Left click on the page and I'm going to type a letter N and then choose the select icon to select it, and then I'm just going to drag this out so you can see it better on the page. Now this bit, when you're putting dingbat fonts on letters, can be a little bit hit and miss, so you'll have to play with this. But basically at the moment, if we click on the holly, that's a text, and if we click on the letter, that's a text. We've got to convert this text to a path, else the text to path function won't work. So while this letter's selected, we come up here and we go path, object to path, and if you look down here, it's told us it's a group. If you remember before, when we clicked the circle and we did path object to path, it said it was a path. When you're using letters, you have one more step you have to do. So we've selected this, we've done path object to path, which is now a group. We come up here to object and we click ungroup, and now it's a path. While this letter N is selected, I'm going to right click on the word stroke and choose black, and I'm going to right click on against the fill and remove the fill because I prefer to see it without the colour while I'm doing this. Going to drag an imaginary box around my text, which is my holly, and my path, and I'm going to go to text, put on path, and as you can see it started to wrap it round. I'm going to double click at the beginning of the N to get the flashing cursor, and I'm going to type some more letter R's to fill in this letter. Okay, then I'm going to double click on the holly to select everything and use the kerning icons here on the vertical shift again to bring the holly down over the letter N. So I'm going to click on the up arrow and keep clicking until all this holly moves down. Okay, then I'm going to choose the select icon to deselect. I don't know if you can see, but they have all moved down. Left click to deselect everything, drag an imaginary box around those and go to path union. But before I do that, I'm going to, just deselect, choose the N, right click and hit duplicate and drag the duplicate out of the way just for now. Going to drag my imaginary box around my text and my path again and go to path union. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to fill that in red. So I'm going to right click on this red colour swatch, and left click set fill, and I'm going to right click on the colour swatch again and left click set stroke, and that's made the outside and the inside all red now. I'm going to come back to my letter N this time and select it. While it's selected, I'm going to go path, inset, and it's got a little bit smaller, and path, inset again. And then just for good measure, because it's a font, I'm going to do path union. And that way I know it will open in Canvas. And then while it's selected, I'm going to right click on the green swatch and click set fill and right click on it again and set stroke. That's just because I like the same colour on the outside as I do on the inside. And then if I drag this over and place that over there, you'll see now that it's got a tiny little border all the way around. And if I want more, while this green N is selected, if I do path inset again, you can see it getting smaller. And if I want it smaller still, you can see it's getting smaller. This is like doing your inward and outward offset when you use Canvas. So that's how you can use text, which is a dingbat font, and put it on a path. But the path doesn't have to be a shape, it can be text, but you have to convert the letter text to a path. I hope that's not too confusing. You need to have a play around with this. As I say, this is a bit more of an advanced technique using Inkscape. And then I would just drag these shapes apart now, go to File, Save As, I'll just call it test.svg and save it on my desktop. And then once I know that's saved on my desktop, I'll go to Canvas, open up Canvas, log in, select a new project. I'm just going to close Inkscape down so I've not got too much on my desktop. And then I've got my test file I've just made in Inkscape on my desktop. I'm going to bring it into Canvas and it should open, and then you can save it. We'll go to Project, Import SVG, click on Choose File. I'm going to go to my desktop because that's where I saved my file. I find it a lot easier to put things on your desktop while you're working with different programs until you know what you're doing. Click Choose, OK, and it should open in Canvas. And then I can save it in Canvas as a Canvas project. There it is. Give it a name. I'll just call it Test again for now. Click on this icon here, which is Command plus Write to Project, which basically just means you're saving it in Canvas. And then you would choose Download once it's saved. You choose Download. Again, I would download it to your desktop and put it on a USB stick, and it's ready to cut on your scan and cut machine. So I hope you found that helpful. Please like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.